Today's topic is about creating an impactful image for future law firm partners. I'm going to briefly introduce myself for those of you who don't know me or don't know me well. I'm Joseph Rosenfeld. I'm a longtime image consultant. I've been practicing for over 30 years. One of my specialties is working with lawyers. I have been working with lawyers for my entire career. It's something that I feel uniquely equipped to do. Lawyers are a special group of people, and you're special. When you're thinking about becoming a partner in the firm that you work for now, or perhaps jumping to another firm, it's important to think about the impact of your image. And this is why I want to have this conversation today. I understand that in your firm, especially if you work in a larger firm, lots of people have similar credentials to yours. They went to the same good schools. Maybe people went to schools that were more vaunted than the one you went to. You're looking for visibility to build your reputation and to have people see you as credible. So this is the way you get more responsibility. You get pulled into more teams. You're able to show your skill set, your competence. You're able to show your gifts and talents and strengths. So the importance of your image is important in these ways because that first moment of visibility with people is your appearance, and how you demonstrate this to people ends up showcasing that you're bringing to bear all of your assets. Your appearance is an asset. It should be a strength. That's the whole idea of leveraging your image. Dressing for success is not the same thing that it used to be. It sounds antiquated or cliche to talk about dressing for success. But when you want to make headway in your firm, there are some things that you should be mindful of. First of all, there is a culture within your firm, and you want to think about what that culture is like and how not only to fit in, but how to individuate, which means you have a right to show up as the full and best version of yourself, even if that is a little bit different than what your culture in the firm is all about. Some firms are the white shoe type where everybody is expected to dress in a very conservative way. So in a sea of navy blue suits, if you show up in a navy blue suit too, you blend in. But how do you stand out? Some of this comes down to the types of clothing that you wear, when you need to showcase authority, which is not always, believe it or not. If you're in your office and you're working with a team, if you're a leader, then yes, that showing authority becomes more important. Sometimes you show authority through your competence, though, and that's also how you demonstrate credibility. So going and asking for more work or turning in really good work to a supervising attorney will obviously beget you more good work. The issue, though, is when you're having these meetings and conversations, even if they're remote on Zoom or WebEx or in person back in the office, how you show up is consequential. So the fit of your garments are important. The colors that you wear are important, and how you accessorize is important. For one thing, if you're wearing jackets in the office, I would recommend that your jackets be tailored very well, just like the bottom half of your ensemble. If it's a pant or a skirt, it's important that everything be nicely tailored. Things don't have to fit super close to your body that you can see basically the contour of your body unless you want to do that. The key here is to make the fit help advance your professionalism. If you don't want unwanted eyes directed at you, there are things that you can do along with having a well-fitted garment. You can augment that with patterning and with texture in the fabric. Patterns run the gamut, although in suitings, you tend to see more stripes or plaids or checks, but there is always an opportunity to play with textures that are not entirely smooth, but where you can actually experience the texture, both when you touch it with your fingers, as well as when you touch it with your eyes. That's what I call the visual touch. These are opportunities for you to kind of augment the shape of your garment and the way that an onlooker looks at you. It's not about hiding behind anything or disguising anything as much as it is about expressing more about who you are as a human being. So you could work with houndstooth patterns or bird's eye patterns, or you can also add in these different types of more textural effects, like wool crepe has a texture to it. You could wear a tweed. You could wear a boucle. Boucle is a French word for the word curly. And you could essentially wear play fabric, which is wool typically twisted with nylon, to give some buoyancy, and it adds depth and some weighty texture, which can be really nice. You want to do the right thing based on the season, of course, when it comes to texture and weight of fabric. But these kinds of things can be very helpful in terms of showcasing your professionalism and being on point. When it comes to things like color, my favorite solution is pay attention to what your eye color is. Your eye color is the window to your soul. And perhaps you might think that you don't want people to see into your soul. You do. And the reason why is because you want people to see your truth. In law, everything is about the truth. And the truth lies inside of you. The way you telegraph the truth comes through the way you process everything inside of your brain and inside of your heart and inside of your spirit. So working with your eye color can be particularly powerful. As a personal example, just to demonstrate how powerful this can be, I have hazel eyes, and they're hazel, but they're like, the nuance is they're like the color of sage. And if you know anything about the color of sage, you might take a bunch of sage and light it on fire to burn in a space that you want to clear the energy. Lots of people who know me personally and have experienced working with me will tell me that I am a healer of sorts, which is very touching to receive that kind of feedback after going through an experience of working together. What I'm explaining to you here is that my eye color supports my being. There is no variance between the way my physicality is and who I be as a human being, what I am offering to the world. So what you offer to the world is something that we can actually see if we pay attention. Most people don't have the skills to be as in touch with the definition as I lay it out. But what people can do is we have a keen sense of knowing. We have a keen sense of feeling what it is like to see somebody, and we just have that sense. So using your eye color is a wonderful and powerful way of accessorizing and getting people to see more of your truth. Also, you don't want people really coming too closely into your personal space to investigate what your eye color is, right? But if you could take that eye color and repeat it in an accessory, or wear it in a blouse, or perhaps it could be a stripe in a suiting, or a check or a pattern. Wow, 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 would that be powerful? It's something that I get to do with my clients all the time. And of course, there's a matter of accessories. The other day, I recorded a podcast episode with an attorney who specializes in trial preparation. And this was, in fact, one of the things that we discussed, the importance of accessories. And particularly for women, I think there are a lot of very antiquated notions about accessories that are just worth pointing out here. Most people will say that if you are a female attorney, you should wear things like pearls in your ears, around your neck, if you're going to wear jewelry at all. The notion behind this concept is that this jewelry is quiet. Well, it doesn't make any actual noise when you move. That's the standard way of thinking about these things. Now, I think that this is really limiting, and I abhor that kind of advice. I'm not against pearls. If you have the personality where pearls suit you best, then that's great. I also think that there's the need for expression of personality to be able to wear chunky jewelry that literally makes noise. Some of these old rules, I think, to be honest, came from men who just wanted women to be quiet if they had to be there at all. And I am a really ardent supporter of women and men, and I want everyone to show up and showcase their talent and their gifts. And yes, sometimes that personal expression in a piece of jewelry can tell a lot about the wearer. I have a client who got a fantastic piece of Alexis Bittar jewelry that I hand selected for her from the editorial archives of Alexis's collection. This was a piece of jewelry that is shaped like a telephone. It's a necklace, but the doodad and the front of it is shaped like a telephone. And it was worn on the Sex and the City show by the character of Carrie Bradshaw. And so when my client wears this piece of jewelry, of course, she loves that backstory. But what's even more fun about it is she's constantly on the phone, and she's known as being a phone person. So there's a way of actually connecting essences of your personality to what you're wearing. And this doesn't only apply to a piece of jewelry. For gentlemen who wear ties, there are so many wonderful motifs in neckwear that it can tell a lot about your personality. Some companies like Hermes and Ferragamo make small repetitive patterned ties, but have totally fun motifs. They could feature things like horses or elephants or other animals, but they could also feature things like sailboats. One of my clients is really into sailing, so any opportunity that I have to find neckwear or pocket squares that have a sailing motif, he cannot get too many of them. Another client is really into bicycling, so any opportunity that I have to show something that I find in my random searches for things, which are not really random because I'm always looking, I get the chance to give that client garments that really feature the cycling motif. And it can be a lot of fun to put that on and a way of integrating something personal into who you are as a whole person. I also just want to touch on the fact that hygiene and grooming are really important, because if you get your look together, but you don't smell fresh or your breath isn't great, these other things unfortunately undercut what your other strengths are. And sometimes companies have had to bring me in to give talks to entire groups of people so as to not single out one or two people who are, shall we say, the offenders. And I'm sure that nobody means to offend anybody. And yet it is important just to touch on this for at least this cringy brief moment, because I want everyone who benefits from this conversation to think through how important these little things are. You never want people to feel like they need to back away from you because you have a case of halitosis. Sometimes people have cultural differences that come up because people are not born in this country and are practicing law in this country and are still fresh and new to what is really important and acceptable in our culture in America. So, and I've had to have these conversations with people over the years, and it's not the most pleasant thing in the world to talk about, but believe me, when you put those things together and then show up, it's a real warm invitation to be included. And what everybody wants is a seat at the table. So when you're looking to create impact as a future law firm partner, you have to be able to demonstrate your ability to grow and your willingness to fit into the culture in those particular kinds of ways. Also, I don't work on nonverbal communication with all my clients, but it does sometimes come up. The most frequent thing that people will ask me about is their posture. And I always like to say, tongue in cheek, I'm not a Pilates instructor. But if you are a Pilates person, you know that that is a form of exercise that can really help to stretch out the body and straighten out your posture. What's amazing, though, is that sometimes posture is related to confidence. And although we might think of ourselves as confident, sometimes we're not, if we're going to be honest. And what I have found with clients over the years is that simply putting on the right clothing where you feel confident and comfortable within yourself is an opportunity to then straighten out your posture. And you can't help it, because when you put something on where you feel good and you feel powerful, it does naturally straighten you out. It can help to eliminate some or all of that slouch, enough that you can tell that you've made an important difference in your confidence and how it comes through in terms of your appearance. It's important to also be good with using your hands and not to overuse. There's a fine balance between that and certainly maintaining good eye contact with people. My best tip on that is to focus on the triangle that you see on a person's face. Look between their eyes and nose and mouth and gently move your eyes around someone's face so it doesn't turn into a glaring or staring match. Someone that you're trying to communicate with is bound to look away. And if you glare at them without gently moving your eyes around, all of the preparation that you can have for your meeting, all the competence that you're trying to bring to bear, and all of the preparation and time it took to prepare how you look can all be thwarted by turning someone's gaze away from you because you intimidated them unintentionally. It's important also to talk about building your personal brand, because if you intend to become a partner at a law firm, Your reputation is your personal brand. It's important to put yourself out online in terms of how you build your brand in those ways. But even more than that, it's important to understand more about who you are and what strengths you bring to bear. You might consider doing a personal branding exploration where you can learn from the people around you who absolutely love you and support you and know you in all different contexts of your life, who you are to them. It's this sort of cumulative effect of how your colleagues and bosses and professors and friends and family members, how all of these disparate parts of your world come together in knowing you is the best way to really build your personal brand. It's not about self-promotion. That's not the way I'm thinking about what personal branding work is about. When you can truly know who you are, not only from your own self-assessment of who you are, but you overlay that and see and understand and appreciate how the world around you sees you, it's an invitation to create greater synergy. Sometimes, no matter how confident you are or that you think you are, or how much you think you know about yourself, it's entirely possible to have limiting beliefs where you'll find that out because people around you think that you are a rock star of a certain kind that you never really saw in yourself. Maybe the gifts and talents and strengths and energy that you have flows through you so easily that you just don't see it. It's so automatic, right? But when you get this kind of rich feedback from people, you learn more about who they say that you are, and that is your reputation. And then you have an opportunity to build upon that and add credibility by being less fearful or working through any fears that you may have about putting yourself out there and stepping up to the plate that allow you to do more. So thinking about your personal brand development and how you show up is also part of your visual brand. So we have to talk about all of these things in context of how important those things are for you. And of course, there is the importance of having good communication skills, which as a lawyer, there's no question that you have. You want to continue to hone those skills. Be concise in your communication and speak with clarity and be confident. You can show up and try to feign confidence in some way by putting on the right looking clothing. But if you don't sound confident, it will show. And that's called creating cognitive dissonance, where you look the certain way that people really want to believe in you. But if you show up and you sound like this, instead of having a more natural, powerful voice without sounding forced, which can also create cognitive dissonance, by just being yourself in your natural power and bringing sincerity and seriousness, gravitas, through your vocal tone, as well as using the right vocabulary, you're going to have a better way of positioning your arguments. You're going to have a better way of talking with your colleagues and being a good team player. People will want to hear what you have to say because you have a pleasing, appealing vocal tone. And if you happen to be a litigator, you will have people in the courtroom listening and hanging on to your every word because you are painting a total picture that the way you sound and the words you use and the way you show up visually match each other. And this is where the magic can all take place. A couple stories I want to share with you to put all of these disparate pieces together. I recently worked with a client who is a male who works with lots of women attorneys, and he found upon his own self-reflection and evaluation that he really wasn't showing up with as much effort as his colleagues. And he is interested in advancing in his career, and he thought that he should really do something about it. And although we've only worked together recently, the difference in how he is showing up is remarkable. He feels much more a part of the team, not because he's dressing in a feminine way, he's a guy. He's really showing up as part of the team because he's bringing more of himself. And it's an invitation for creating more connections with the team just because he upped his presence. I'm very excited to see what will happen with him as we go further and as he continues to show up on a constant and consistent basis. But I can already say that the way he feels is very good, and that impacts his ability to do greater work. And this is going to land him in a very good position in the short term, as well as in the long term. Another person I worked with recently is a litigator. She's very sharp and she knows it. But she also had humility enough in her knowing that she knew she could also do better. She could do things differently for herself than how she had done before. And in working together, she learned that she really didn't need to bring fancy designer bags into a courtroom to make a statement. That if anything, those might have made the statement of, I'm a high-priced lawyer. Whereas dressing in a more stealthy manner didn't necessarily mean that she was investing less in herself or in her wardrobe. But what she was doing was she was demonstrating the caliber of her expertise, the caliber of her excellence. It quietly whispers in her apparel choices and allows her to show up with even greater power. Sometimes the greatest power you can ever exhibit is the one that is exhibited through silence, not necessarily through boldness. So those are a couple of prime examples that I want to share with you. And I'm going to end my sort of case study part of this conversation by sharing a conversation that I had earlier this week with a woman who has not hired me yet. She's also an attorney, and she's considering working with me for sure. One of the things that she told me is that in the office before the pandemic, people have hit on her. And that was very concerning to me when I learned about this, when she was so courageous to share with me. We don't know each other, but I like being able to create that safety for her and for all my clients to tell me exactly what's going on. So she was explaining to me how what she really wants to do is to go back to the office now that things are back to the office. And she wants to be invisible. Well, this took me aback because the last thing she needs is visibility. The first thing she needs is to feel safe, emotionally safe, physically safe, psychologically safe. So if we are to work together at some point, whenever the time may be right for her, my job is to demonstrate to her what those looks will be. And they will be based on her personality and based on her skills and her strengths and her talents and all of her assets and how she looks. I can't wait for the moment to be able to introduce her to that sense of self that I believe all humans deserve to have. She needs something that's really kind of, let's just say, beyond the clothing. And yet she has every right to want to look chic and fashionable and to feel beautiful to herself. No one should ever have to feel like they need to put that away. And no matter how much work we do together, we can't blindfold the people who might make gazes at her. But what she can do is deflect them with her own superpower of newfound confidence and her ability to show up in the office capable, competent, and going for it. These are the things that I want for all of my clients to be able to do. And this is one of those things that is going to help elevate her to not just bring her A game all the time, but it is going to help elevate her career. Her trajectory is going to change, and great success will come to her because you don't get anywhere being a wallflower in this world. And especially in the world of law, you really have to show up with authority and confidence.
Joseph.
Hi.
Thank you very much. It's very tactically, practically, and strategically insightful how this image world works with our credibility and our trajectory and all the disparate pieces. Like you said, I have a question as a person who is in professional services and also in the startup world. My eyes are the color of the sky. And typically that's not a power color. And so I would love to wear suits and jackets that color and don't, kind of stayed away from that for, I don't know, whatever traditional reasons about these definitions of things. So what would you recommend? Those of us with eye colors like this, as you said, eye color is so important to project in terms of integrity and congruence, our true power and authority. How do I convey that in a way that suits the cultures that I'm in and myself? Would it be a suit? Would it be a blouse? Would it be jewelry? And I know this is sort of a bespoke question to me, but I am sort of asking like more broadly so that it's applicable to everyone as well as we deal with some of these DNA, personality, personal things, and then also like styling or image do's and don'ts, and then also what we need to deal with our industries as well.
Okay, well, let's try and tackle this. So the first thing that I think is important is to address what you brought up in terms of your eye color. First of all, there may be classic concepts around what power colors are: navy and black, red. Of course, we could go down a rabbit hole about what is red because red is the broadest color in the spectrum. And so there are so many nuances to what red color is. Yet, for your particular eye color, I would say that could be a power color. It may also depend on the use case, let's call it. So, for example, the color psychology of the color of the sky, if you will, is one of hope or optimism, generally speaking. And so who doesn't need hope or optimism? Of course, people need practicality and like, let's get stuff done. Yet it's important to have that uplifting kind of look for some people who need uplifting. When you're working with someone and maybe things are very challenging for the person you're working with, you might almost envision that the way that their psyche is pointing downward into a place of confusion or complication or even sadness of some kind. That can happen. So you being able to show up as representing the solution, which is the opposite of where someone is, can be extraordinarily powerful. You're never going to say, hey, I am wearing the color of the sky in my suit or my blouse today because I want to show you hope and optimism, and I'm going to help you work through your situation and fix your problem. That may absolutely 100% be true, but you would never say that because it sounds corny as hell. But it is also extraordinarily true. Sometimes the corny things are the truest things, and maybe we should just say these things out loud from time to time, or maybe not, but whatever it is, it's important to be able to show up as that person. And you need to do that for some of your clients. I know that firsthand. I would also add that being able to take your eye color and turning that into authority vis-a-vis wearing a suit or a jacket, at least with a lapel, is very helpful in terms of how that's the garment that really shows authority. And so, if you will, say you have a jacket on and it is your eye color. And we know that your eye color, since this is about you right now, is the eye color of hope or optimism, upward looking towards the sky. If you put that on in a jacket with a lapel, what you are essentially telling the onlooker that you're working with is, I am the authority of hope. It's not either or, it's both. And then it's even more because there are other things that you can bring to bear. Now, blue that's non-navy also has a connotation of being creative or nimble. And sometimes you have to act quick on your feet when you are the solution provider to people and offering suggestions to people. That can be extraordinarily powerful to use that color, not even as a referential point for the onlooker, but as a reminder to self. If you happen to gaze down at yourself and you realize, oh, I'm wearing this color, I'm wearing this garment in this color. Yes, this is the environment that I chose to put on today, and I have to remember why I chose to put on this environment. I chose to put on this environment because I needed to bring to bear this energy. So you're taking your clothing and using it to remind yourself of the energy that you need to bring to bear. You can also use the same color in accessories. Let's say that you really need to create more trust and credibility with someone you're meeting. You might revert back to your classic navy or midnight blue, and that will give you that from that color psychological perspective. But if you could wear a scarf or a pair of earrings or a necklace that brings your eye color into the picture, you're still highlighting that you are trustworthy, that you can make independent decisions, the things that navy blue messages in a classic way. And then you can also still say, I make independent decisions and I'm a heck of a creative thinker as well. You can send these messages. And, when you know that you're meeting with a particular person and you know what you're meeting about, and that some of what I'm suggesting to you needs to come through in the course of conversation in terms of how you're supporting that person, that is how you can help to telegraph those messages, so that how you sound when you speak and what you say in your words and how you look all come together to help tell more of that story in a way where the person you're meeting with really, really gets you. Like they won't finish the conversation or the meeting with you thinking, oh yeah, man, that Ginny, that was just a whole bunch of words. They won't feel that way because you will give them every opportunity to feel that you brought your full self to bear in how you sounded, in how you showed up, in what you prepared for the meeting, and that everything is in sync. So if you think about dressing with that kind of intentionality, it's hard to go wrong. And although it sounds like it might take more effort than it doesn't really take that much effort. Perhaps the thing that takes the greatest effort is sourcing all the right wardrobe items that you need in order to be able to go play dress up, if you will, to help telegraph those messages. But when you understand what level of clothing you need to wear most often and how you're expected to show up, you can play within certain parameters where you can make an investment, but a more minimal investment in your wardrobe to help acquire the pieces that you need that will take you further into your career. So I have just to share about this, I have a mantra around wardrobing, which is own less, but better, and do more with the garments that you have. So this is a personal mantra of my own. It's a statement about buying things of quality and of longevity, and own less of them and wear them more often and get more out of them, and accessorize with more things, blouses under suitings, accessories of the nature of jewelry, or flipping out of a shoe and wearing a boot. These kinds of things can shift around the way that you feel powerful in your full being, clothed from head to toe, essentially. How does that serve you, Jenny, in answering your question?
That's really helpful. From a standpoint of, professional services, there's fiduciary responsibility, there's, a lot of pressure and, technical expertise and expectation and results expectation, certainly in the venture capital world as well. And so I understanding what my eye color, that color means, what it can bring, and how to wear it with gravitas, and that hope and creativity are also gravitas. Talk about a mindset shift, and then how to wear it in a way that conveys the fullness of who I am and the honoring and respect of the context that I'm in, the culture that I'm in, the expectations that are there, pulls everything together. And it's actually not dress up. It is actually like wearing my own skin, and then, conveying what is appropriate to convey about me, what I have to offer, what my responsibilities are there to a particular audience. And so I can, with less and higher quality, have more customization even to select what's appropriate for my audience that day, and feel really good in my own skin, and also appropriately, credible, powerful, gracious, whatever's also needed from that perspective. And I really appreciate that, because like you said, conventionally, my eye color could have several, other connotations, but to really pull it together this way really brings the strength of what is true about the sky, my eye color, and how to use it in a way that serves everyone to the highest good. And I'm very grateful. Thank you, Joseph.
You're welcome. That was a very good summary. I appreciate that. Fantastic. Okay. Who else has a question, if anyone? Happy to take one more before we wrap up for the day. Hi, Annette.
Nice
Hi.
to see you here.
Nice to see you. Thanks for coming.
So interesting, a lot of gems that you shared here. So my question is, because I think this is not uncommon, is how do people break out of a rut? You know, we all tend to, I think, or not you, but a lot of us tend to wear sort of the same thing over and over again, or, you know, the same kind of style. And, you know, how do we break that rut? I would imagine that's interest to me, but probably to others as well.
I think lots of people do suffer from this. In fact, it conjures a story that I want to share with you. It goes in the wayback machine of my memory. I had a client in Chicago. This was before I became an image consultant, but I was like right on the precipice of getting out of my retail career and getting into this, what I do now. And I was doing some private moonlighting consulting with him. I had paid attention to the fact that over the years of him coming to work with me at Neiman Marcus in Chicago, he had this affinity for buying a particular type of suit. He loved navy suits. And then when I went to his home to evaluate what he had in his wardrobe, I scratched my head and I said, Mark, I really can't figure out what makes you discern which of these navy suits you're going to wear. They are like all the same practically. It's like having a uniform, and he had really no variety. So sometimes we get so caught up in what we think we are supposed to do that we're like walking a tightrope. We can be very much on the straight and narrow about how we are expected to show up. There may be just something that gets in our head, or it's the way people expect to see us in our different, in our different roles and responsibilities. I think there is also this other aspect of things, which is, well, let's just say it comes down to perhaps some malaise, laziness. Oh, I'm just going to put this on because it's easy. I think a lot of people get into these kinds of ruts where it could be a change of season, let's say, and there's a certain range of color in your wardrobe, and you really, just that's what you have for summer, and you enjoy that. So that's okay. Like there's some seasonal adjustment that we all have to be able to live with. Maybe you don't want to have a hugely expansive summer wardrobe, let's say, because, the summer season is in some ways short and in some ways long. You can get very sweaty in the summertime, especially these days. And I think not wanting to overinvest in things that you may not really love wearing makes perfectly logical sense to me. But what that does is it can create an unintentional rut because you have fewer things to shift in and out of, which I think is in some ways problematic, and the downfall of the sense of, well, it's not my favorite season and I get really gross in everything and then I have to get everything cleaned. Sometimes that's just what has to happen. But then there comes this other part, which I think, as I sort of tangentially mentioned, really needs to be discussed, which is the lazy part, quite frankly. What causes the laziness? I think that's unique to a person. I think if you don't have to show up for people, and because you maybe work alone a lot, or you think that no one is really paying attention, even if they are, and you are working around people, it is consequential, because if you feel bored and people are looking at you, they may think that you're bored, or they may get bored of you, which is really weird, but also very true. It's important to think about those consequences. And the most important thing that you can do is, when you're feeling that way, pay attention to the fact that you may feel that way. by acknowledging that you might be feeling bored, this is an opportunity to go to your closet and say, hello, friend. I don't know why I haven't put you on in a while, but I think that might be just the trick right now. Maybe you're the antidote to my boredom. And go put something on that really makes you feel good. I'll end with this little thought, Annette, and come back to you for your added thoughts. There are times when I have worked with clients over the years where they'll tell me, I don't know what to do. I just woke up in a really shitty mood. And I tell them, go to your closet, go look for something that absolutely makes you feel great when you wear it, and go put it on. Maybe it's not the right look for the day, but go put it on for 5 minutes. It's absolutely an environmental shift that when you go change your environment, and I can think nothing greater than changing the environment of your body in an instant. Here's why I think that this is so powerful. You, in choosing an item from your wardrobe to go put on with the intention that it may cheer you up, is already beginning to do its job. We have to break down why this is happening. First, you are creating an image in your head of this garment that your eyes land upon and think, that is a happy piece of clothing for me. And when you look at that, something begins to happen inside your head, inside your mind, where you start generating that emotional connection to, oh, that's my happy piece. How can you look at that with the frown on your face? It should make you feel like, oh, hi, friend. Like I'm smiling, telling you about this, and hopefully you can even hear my smile. Like that's what it should do for you. So when you have this image of how you want to be, which is happy and feeling okay, and that you have this feeling that you conjure up along with the image, the action, the physical action of putting on the garment is like a kinesthetic experience where you're taking your vision, you're taking your emotion, and you're taking action and putting it all together. And in an instant, it can be transformative. That is a great way to get out of the doldrums pretty fast. Would you try that, Annette?
Well, I have. It's funny because you actually reminded me of something. I used to have when I was single, I had some lucky clothes that I used to wear if I wanted to go out and have a good time that night. Usually they involve wearing red, of course. But so, yeah, I hear that. And it certainly makes sense. I love that. I'm going to think more about that, looking in my closet and looking for stuff that makes me happy, because although you've only ever seen me wear black, I do wear other colors. So thank you.
Fantastic. I hope that you learned something great today. One thing that you can do to help me is to tell people about my programming. Direct your friends on LinkedIn to reach out and connect with me if you think that they would benefit from my content. I am here to share value, build my network, and to reach the people who do need my help. Thank you very much for being here. Have a great day.